super surreal. As much as we believe in this franchise and we've seen the fan base growing and how rabid they've been, if you ask me, is there any chance this movie could be #1 movie in America, I would say that not in a million years. So this has surprised the hell out of all of us, and we're super, super grateful.
Well, it's great for me too, because whenever one of them comes out, I get to collect a barf bag.
Oh yeah.
Always lovely to get.
Yeah, I'm gonna be synonymous with puke.
Yes, but with a bigger budget, there can also be a bigger team. So I believe you've now stepped back from handling the special effects yourself for this one.
That is correct. I hired Christian Tinsley to come in and do the makeup effects. And if you're not familiar with Christian Tinsley, he's worked on Passion of the Christ, No Country for Old Men, Westworld, Renfield, huge, amazing Hollywood movies. But also movies like Passion of the Christ and No Country, they're much more grounded in reality. And there's, great scenes of graphic violence and wonderful, horror makeups in those films. But it's not on the level of a slasher necessarily. So that's one of the main reasons that I was excited for him to tackle this, because I knew there would be some real new level of gore and realism that may have not been in the first 2 movies, and I was curious to see if that was going to translate in part 3, and I think it has in a handful of scenes for sure.
So do you feel like the bigger budget and the ability to delegate more has afforded you a faster, more efficiently run shoot, or has it just become longer and even more elaborate?
No, absolutely. This was the quickest turnaround, quickest film I ever made, but which in and of itself lent a lot of problems, or a lot of tension and pressure, because not only did I have to shoot it fast, I mean, we basically, once we had the green light for this film, I basically had to write the script, shoot the movie, edit it, because we already had pretty much a release date locked in. So it was just scrambling to the finish line, and we made this movie up to the wire. I'm still working on it. I literally did sound design yesterday for the Blu-ray that's coming out, because it's a different mix. So I'm still working on this film. It's been wild, but it enabled me to, having the bigger budget enabled me to, of course, step away from the makeup, which would take up a lot of my time. And I wouldn't be able to focus on our other areas of production as well. And so I was able to really focus with my actors on set a lot more. I was able to focus with my camera department and my production designer, and really just work on more elaborate shots, and just every technical area of the film I was able to put a little more emphasis on and focus on. So I don't think it's debatable that this is technically the best looking film that I've made so far. I mean, subjective, we're not favorite film is a different story. But technically, I think because I was able to hand over the reins of the special effects, it's a better looking film.
Yeah, because, the movie started, and right from the first shot, I was thinking Black Christmas. And it's not even just that it's a horror movie set at Christmas, there's a lot of those, but it just visually has the vibe and the feel of that kind of pretty but raw 70s horror that Black Christmas is. With a lot of Christmas lights to fill up the screen. But can you talk a little bit more about what the look of the movie that you wanted to achieve was?
Yeah, exactly that. And that was one of my main references. It was it was Black Christmas, it was early John Carpenter work, which is very tricky, because my director of photography is not used to that style. It's a very unique style of lighting that a lot of people don't typically, a lot of films, they don't look like that anymore. And basically what we had to do is, of course, study the look of those movies, and that entailed basically buying as many old school hot lights as we could find. And basically to light one scene, you would have to set up 8 lights that are hidden all over the place, that are basically shining like hot spotlights all over the place. So you have these really, stark contrast between shadows and light. There's a lot of depth, and there's a lot, which takes forever. And it was a big learning curve for us to really figure out how to light that way and how to do it efficiently. So there's a reason why a lot of movies, I guess, don't really look like that anymore. And also, once we got into post-production, it was sort of trying to trying to give it that older aesthetic and trying to degrade it just a little bit and like, bring up the grain and all that kind of, just to give it that old school look. If I could shoot these movies on 35 millimeter, if I could get my hands on that old film stock that they don't even make anymore, I would kill to have my movie look exactly like it was ripped from the 70s. Yeah.
And obviously, I believe slasher fans would have noticed a cameo by special effects legend Tom Savini.
Oh, yeah.
And I just have to ask, because once you get Tom Savini even involved a little bit, did you feel the need to did you want to ask him do you want to come in and do makeup on the leg? Do you want to build a prosthetic? Do you want to do anything like that?
Well, he doesn't typically do makeup effects anymore, but his buddy Jason Baker does special effects, and Jason came in and helped me build a lot of stuff. He primarily did the that sequence with the Virgin Mary and the demon. So Jason and his team, they built the demon, and then I had John Caglione come in and sculpt the face of Mary, and he also sculpted, I think, the face of the demon. And he's Academy Award-winning makeup artist on Dick Tracy. He did the Heath Ledger Joker makeup. So to have those two guys come together and do that special sequence was unbelievable. But primarily, Christian Tinsley did the effects on the entire movie. And Christian Tinsley's done No Country for Old Men, Renfield, Passion of the Christ, crazy, crazy movies. So I had this amazing dream team basically working on this, which was phenomenal. So for the first time in my life, I got to sit back and sort of just become more of a consultant. I was still very involved, storyboarding, telling them exactly how I want to execute these effects, and which was great because it makes it so much easier for them because I know exactly what I want. Whereas, most directors, rightfully so, aren't too familiar with how practical effects are executed in the best possible way. So it was a new experience, but it was super fun and a huge relief.
Well, most people are going to want to talk about the kill sequences, but I want to move away from that, and I want to ask whether it's a story decision or a character choice, anything that you've decided to do. What about Terrifier 3? Are you most satisfied with that you managed to pull off that isn't one of the kill sequences?
Anytime I could, my favorite character is the Sienna character. So anytime I could get the audience to empathize with her and hopefully cheer for her when she has to throw down with Art the Clown, I feel like I've done my job, because it's really hard when everybody's coming there to cheer for the villain. And that's typically the case with all of these films, even though we love our final girls. But you go to watch Freddy to see Freddy kill as many people as possible in the most creative way, and that goes down the line. So put so much care into the Sienna character and making her, complex and vulnerable and strong and empathetic, and just trying to weave that in a way that doesn't feel forced, and just seeing what Lauren Levera brings to that character. She cares so much about that character, which really become hers, and it's almost, I want to say, watching her in part 3, it's almost like second nature the way she stepped back into it, and she really elevated her game in this movie. And I was so excited for people to see her character in this, because it's a very dark chapter in that character's journey, and seeing where Lauren had to go and she had to really tap into these dark places and these very vulnerable situations, especially during the entire finale of the movie. It was one of the most uncomfortable things I had to film. I had to spend a week in that mindset around that. That it was just so intense. But it was wonderful. It was just so incredible to see what an amazing performance she was able to conjure up.
And just to say that finale in the third film is the best sequence in any of these movies so far.
Oh wow! Thank you.
It almost caught me off guard by how good it was. I gotta say.
Appreciate that.
But I believe you've said this is either going to be a 4 or 5-part film series, a lot of people might not even know that by the time the 4th film will come out, Art the Clown will have been around for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I believe the Ninth Circle was when he first appeared was 2008 or so.
I believe it was earlier. I'm kind of losing track. time, but I think that I created it around 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I'm positive I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the same turnaround is for the fourth movie, that will be the 20th anniversary, in that case, for the character. So I'm wondering, like, do you have any, that's a long time, do you have any idea what comes after that for you? Do you have any plans of what might come after Terrifier?
I do. There's a few options. There's stories or other original stories that I'm working on that I've even presented to studios and they love them. I have one that's actually in the works with Sam Raimi's production company, Ghost House Pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we were actually working on that before part 3, and we got hit with the writer's strike. So we weren't allowed to work on it anymore. And then we had to just stop until it was over, and that could have been years. I mean, who knows? So I was able to just go and focus all my energy on Terrifier 3 because I didn't have anybody to answer to. So I said, all right. So that's where I am now. Now I'm like fully immersed in Terrifier 3, and now because Terrifier 3 was so successful, and I really believe now there's going to be this huge renaissance of slasher films. I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of very graphic slasher films.
Yes. And it's already, yeah, and I think we're already there. I think we've been there for a little bit. And I had a question for a little later, but let's just do it now then. So like the 80s is always going to be the slasher boom. That's always going to be where the slasher was a thing. But we have from old classics coming back to completely new ideas. From the let's just previous few years, is there another slasher that has stood out for you? Not specifically the character, just the movie.
Slasher that stood out. I know the new one in A Violent Nature. I didn't see the whole movie, but I love the concept of it, and I've seen that amazing kill, the yoga kill that everybody.
Yeah, that's kind of the one that people keep going back to now.
It was absolutely fantastic. But the truth is, oh no, Thanksgiving. Yeah, and I love Eli Roth. He's one of my heroes. So Thanksgiving's fantastic, and I know Eli's going to come back with the sequel, Guns Blazing, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I would say Thanksgiving is probably because I've been looking forward to that since Grindhouse. I was praying that turned into a movie for however many years that's been now. So I'm glad he finally was able to make that one. But yeah, there is a hunger in the horror community for the old school slashers or the new generation. I mean, they're so hungry for filmmakers to come and start creating new ones. So I think you're going to see a lot of creative slashers coming out.
Mm-hmm. And also, almost speaking of that, for as much as creators try, there are very few that actually manage to maintain control of a series forever. Like even Don Mancini, who's still involved with Chuck, like even he had to kind of watch as they remade it, even with he remade Child's Play, even without his permission or consent. So, but you should have the luxury of having more ownership of your characters at this point than most of the other slasher creators ever did. But when you're considering that you're done, is it possible that you could foresee yourself letting someone else have a go at Art the Clown afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't want to make Terrifier movies for the rest of my life. I mean, not that I should be so grateful to be able to, but my creative well is going to run dry eventually with this character. We put so much into each film, with just the situations we're putting Art in, the levity, the violent set pieces. I mean, that could only go on for so long before it starts just getting very stale, very redundant. So I want to make sure that I could just tell this really interesting, satisfying saga where I feel like I put my stamp on it, and you can say, all right, here's the Terrifier, Damien Leone saga, and then I'm sure down the line someone else will take a crack at it, somebody else will eventually play Art the Clown, way down the line. There might be a TV series. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit, really, with something like this. But it all has to make sense, and it has to be the right time. I don't know if it's something I ever can continue to control it and sort of lease it out, or if I sell it off. Maybe if the price is right.
Don't do that.
So it's just so many factors. Right now I'm just so single-mindedly just dead set on finishing this in a very satisfying way.
And the first two were set around Halloween. The third one is now Christmas. Do you have another holiday in mind for number 4?
I don't, and it was never my intention to turn it into the franchise into sort of a gimmick where every movie it's a new holiday. I loved having him around Halloween. But when my producer, one day we were shooting Terrifier 2, and it was during Christmas because we were shooting that movie for years. So, I mean, we were just blowing through holidays and seasons, and it was Christmas, and we were driving the set, and he just said, he's like, wouldn't it be cool if Art the Clown was killing people during Christmas? He goes, next one, Christmas. I said it jokingly, and I said, but immediately it clicked, and I just knew he would be so perfect in this setting. And I have a strong affinity for the Christmas horror subgenre.
Yeah.
It was something I always loved, and I always loved the maniac Santa Claus trope. So to me, that made sense. I don't know how interesting it is to have Art the Clown killing people during the 4th of July or Labor Day.
I think it should be Valentine's Day. I think Art the Clown is going to give a heart to someone.
Valentine's Day works.
Yeah.
He's a sweet character. He's a loving character.
All right, we can round it up. Well, actually, since you put so much in each one, I assume then, you don't keep a drawer full of a list of possible kills that you haven't used yet. Do you do that?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, you do?
That list just gets bigger and bigger every day. Constantly, I have the lists of. There's the main story. So I'm always just adding to that. I added literally, I woke up just out of a deep sleep because now my mind's always racing because I feel like the pressure's on and I have to make this sooner than later. So my mind's been racing. So I just threw down 10 ideas this morning for the movies moving forward. So I have lists of ideas for the film itself and the trajectory of the characters. Then I have lists of just scenarios that I want to put Art the Clown in. He would be hysterical encountering this person or in this situation. And then, of course, I have a list of just kill scenes or instruments, tools, just things like, what would he do with this? What would he, so, and then it's finding the ones that really continue to resonate. And I'm like, all right, now I got to figure out how to weave that kill scene into this story. That's typically the way films are made.
Well, thank you for talking to us.
Of course, man.
Yeah. And I hope you have a nice rest of the day, and we'll see the box office continue to go out with each film, I'm sure.
Thanks, Lucas. I hope everybody out there enjoys this film, man. Thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, they will.